If you looked at our bourbon collection about 7 years ago versus now, you would obviously see a lot of differences. The collection as a whole has grown, but one of the biggest differences you might notice today is how many bottles from this one distillery that we have. That distillery is Bardstown Bourbon Company.
In this video, we're going to explore what makes them different from most other distilleries. We're going to taste and talk about some of our favorites, and we'll hear from a Bardstown employee about why it's such a great place to work. This is Know Your Distillery, Bardstown Bourbon Company.
Sarah, I actually counted the bottles before this. How many do you think we have in our collection?
25.
32.
Whoa,
32.
I was close.
Close,
That's a
yeah.
lot. Chad, we've been going to Bardstown since they opened.
In 2016, which is
Wow.
when we opened
That
as
is
a channel.
when we opened.
Yeah, we're 2016 buddies. One, you walk in there and you notice like this isn't your typical bourbon distillery in
It is
Kentucky.
not.
They treat it differently. It's the Napification of Kentucky.
Whereas you go to other distilleries and they give you sometimes that rustic family vibe, which is great. They give you that more modern, contemporary, but still that family vibe
Right.
at Bardstown Bourbon Company. It's really cool to see what they've done over the years.
Yes, and we've met many times Dan Calloway, Danny Bardstown on Instagram. Go follow him. He's going to be throughout this video. In fact, I think he has something that's germane to this topic.
Oh, he's gonna kick
that
us off?
He can talk about. So
All
kick
right.
us off, Danny.
What makes us the must-see stop is the full modern bourbon experience, right? We were the first to have the full-service restaurant attached to the distillery, so you can come enjoy that. We have a vintage library, over 400 whiskeys dating back to 1892, all available by the pour. We have an incredible experience that we're built to kind of go one after the other, so you can dive in and try different things. And all this leads to elevating Bardstown as that bourbon capital of the world. Pete Lofton, who started in telecommunications, Raleigh, North Carolina, went to go source bourbon and went to a distillery in Indiana and realized that he didn't have a lot of say in the flavor of what he was getting. He didn't have the customer service, he didn't have the choice, and it wasn't in Kentucky. So it was an intentional choice to build this distillery in Bardstown, come to the bourbon capital of the world, and offer something that wasn't available. A way to collaborate, a way to partner and create great bourbon with others. From the beginning, it's always been about recruiting the best people to have on the team. We don't have a 100-year-old history, right? We don't have someone's grandfather. What we have and our story, and what makes it so fun to come to work here every day, is our story is our team. It's what's happening right now and what we're building.
So way back in the beginning, our very first encounter with Bardstown was this bottle, and you'll notice it looks very different than the bottles that they have now. I always liked the way this one looked, but I mean, it had a hefty cork, but this is the problem. This is what many a bartender encounters.
Oh, jeez.
Ooh.
It's like those infomercials. Has this ever happened to you? You love what's in here, but man, hated pouring from this bottle, and obviously they got that feedback too from bartenders, so they
Yeah.
quickly went away from this to the bottles that you know today.
But I love that flexibility and that willingness to hear feedback and change. I like that a
Yeah.
lot about them. This was a collaboration between Bardstown Bourbon Company and Copper and Kings. Done several other collabs with Copper and Kings, and I really like they did an apple brandy one. This is American brandy barrels.
It is good too.
And I feel like at the time, bourbon was booming, and there was still some misconception about blending and finishing and what is it.
Still
And-
is.
But I feel like there's more understanding now. There's more people doing it. And a time when they were a new company and they were coming out with a product, I think people had a lot of, curiosity about what is this and whose stuff is it and how long was it mingled or whatever. And the great thing about Bardstown Bourbon Company is that they've always been transparent from the start. That's something I love about them.
We are all about transparency at Bardstown Bourbon Company. From the get-go, with the all-glass front, we put 2 cutouts into the still so you can see exactly what's going on. When you walk into the visitor center, there's screens displaying real-time shots of the distillery, 500 points of distillation through our ignition system, and that translates to the bottle. And what we're changing in the industry is displaying the mash bill, the source of origin, the age, right on the label, so you know exactly what you're getting.
So after they ditched that hard to pour square bottle, they went to these, and pretty quickly
I do love
they
these bottles.
established their core offerings, which would be Fusion Series, and Discovery Series. Deal with Fusion, and these are both Discovery 7, Fusion 7. I think 8 is getting ready to come out by the time this episode airs. But Fusion has a little bit of their own distillate in it, but blending in other people's things. And as the releases go up, that ratio sort of is going to eventually to where this is completely their stuff.
Sure, as their stuff, becomes more mature, they're balancing that out. And this is the most accessible of all of their bottles.
Yes.
So if you're looking for somewhere to start, this would be the recommendation of where to start with the Bardstown.
If you look at our Fusion blend, it'll be 3 bourbons distilled by us with the mash bill. And then we'll put the sourced, age-stated, 13-year Kentucky with non-disclosures. We're not able to say what company that came from, but we are able to put their mash bill, and a quick Google will get you right there.
Discovery Series, you're gonna get some more exceptional stuff. Oldest in this is 17-year-old, and the youngest is 7, but you also have a lot of 12-year-old. Typically, Discovery Series has been our favorite of the two.
It's true.
It has made it into our blind top 10 best of the year several years. I mean, we like ones better than others,
Right,
and we'll talk about our favorite, but
We've actually been fortunate enough to have a bottle of Discovery Series 1 through 7, so we've been able to do that flight and compare and contrast and kind of find what we love. The one that we love is Discovery Series 4, which is a blend of all Kentucky bourbons.
that is our favorite, yes.
It's between, 10 and 15 years stuff, about 115 proof. That release showcases the quality of Kentucky bourbon at 10 to 15-year-old, but also their skills at blending, because it truly does taste like it was always meant to be this one singular product, right? Shall we taste it?
It's sort of like being able to identify the best features of 3 different distilleries and then knowing how to combine them in a harmonious way where it will still let the best things about those 3 distilleries shine, which is definitely an art. If you've ever tried to blend, you know that.
An art,
And
yes.
another reason why we don't get why some people say if it's sourced, it ain't real whiskey. Explain that in the comments, please, because we're not of that mindset.
We believe in the art of blending, making a finished product that's better than any of its individual components. You see it in tea, you see it in champagne, Japanese whiskey, Scotch whiskey, taking these complementary flavor profiles, putting them together with the viewpoint, of a chef, of a distiller, and finding this balanced product that speaks better than anything individually ever could. So our blends, the Fusion blend, the Discovery blend, we'll take representatives from beverage, culinary, distilling. So what goes into the bottle is a representation of our entire team. We believe in blind tasting. We do it just like an NCAA Final Four bracket, where we line up different blend options. This one beats this one. We start with about 50 and work it down to the end. We've had blends released that were created by our executive chef, our distillation team led by Steve Nally, former master distiller at Maker's Mark. With everything we do, it's collaboration, innovation, and transparency above all else.
So in those 6 years, they've done a lot more collabs. This is a small sampling. I mean, we've got, again, you said 32 bottles.
32, yeah.
That's a lot.
And we don't have every single one of them either.
Some of the earlier ones that we have some Goodwood Brewing Company collaborations. They did a brown walnut ale and a honey ale. Delicious.
I like that one, yeah.
So good. As we said, there are a couple other Copper and Kings, more, recent bottles finished. This was a Spanish Oloroso sherry, but I'm particularly fond of the apple brandy.
Same.
And then we've seen some wine finishes, right?
This is the Pfeiffer Pavitt.
We've got the Pfeiffer Pavitt.
But, a lot of people talk about this Ferrand. They ask us a lot about our opinions of the Ferrand. So 110 proof, 7 and 11-year-old Kentucky that's then finished in the cognac cask for 8 months.
So a lot of their other finishes, like the wine barrels and some of the other things, can get, 12 to 18 months,
18
sometimes
months.
over 20 months.
So we kind of picked this one because, so we're going to talk about our favorites, but we wouldn't want to just talk about our favorites. We like a lot of others more than this Ferrand. I mean, it's good.
It is good.
But man, that cognac.
Yeah, it's competing rather than highlighting. I feel like a lot of their other finishes do an excellent job of
Harmonious.
Yeah, being very harmonious, but uplifting the whiskeys that are in there and the
I
bourbons.
love when whiskeys are uplifted.
Really highlighting them, but also built, like those are the foundation and we're building flavors off of that. But I mean, I will say it does have a nice long finish, and I think it's a really good example of how much flavor you can impart on something in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah. And while we ponder about that, I want to hit pause and tell you about our home on the internet. It's whiskyambitions.com. It's where you can get the Glencairns we're drinking from, the t-shirts and hats that we're wearing. You're not wearing a hat, Sarah.
I'm not.
But also hoodies and other t-shirts and coins and bottle cut candles and
Back
more.
in stock.
Back in stock. Always coming soon at whiskyambitions.com.
I was gonna get a drink of water, but now I'm not. You
Oh,
can also
do it.
become a patron at patreon.com/itsbourbonnight. You can join our community for as little as $1 a month, and that is where we release our barrel picks.
Yes, it is.
Lots of them, and then the opportunity to come with us on barrel picks depending on your tier. And after the episode exclusives, like another round with Chad and Sarah.
And new for plugs, this is cool. This is a company that we've been using for years on our own. Liquid IV. If you've ever gone to
We've been preaching the
a
gospel.
meetup with us or a festival or anything.
Any event.
You know, we have like a backpack full of liquid
Liquid
IV.
IV.
And we now have a coupon code for you guys.
Right.
So you can use it too. You just use It's Bourbon Night, no apostrophe with that S, at Liquid IV for 25% off their store plus free shipping. Guys, what?
We like the hydration multipliers. My favorite is the lemon lime, and then I also really like the watermelon.
Yeah.
Chad, you like the passion fruit and the
do.
acai.
Acai.
But if you're planning on having a bourbon night, like it kind of kickstarts the hydration.
Drink more water. Drink
You know,
more
drink more water,
liquid
but also
IV water.
At Bardstown Bourbon Company, we really believe in education, constantly learning, improving every day. Our whole visitors team, our bar team goes through the Stave and Thief certification. We taste profiles together. We discuss bourbons we love. A huge part of that is when you walk into the restaurant and you see the bar, you'll see everyone's bourbon represented. You know, we celebrate Bardstown, we celebrate the bourbon industry. We want to have that open discussion on flavor profiles, share how we think about bourbon. Our differences elevate us in that way. So to me, Bardstown Bourbon Company is the most exciting distillery in the US. We started distilling in September of 2016. We've quadrupled in size since then. So we now do 7.3 million proof gallons a year, 330 barrels a day. With that, 54 unique recipes for 30 different customers. Some of the biggest spirits companies in the world, we're making unique recipes for them.
Our favorites of Bardstown Bourbon Company of all time.
Ooh, I have to say
the
this
goats.
was tough to narrow it down.
Not really. But we're gonna talk about number 2 first.
Okay.
I'm gonna pour me this. You can have the other one. So this is the triple blended stave finish. This is something that at the time of this recording is still at the distillery, but
Or it was as of a few weeks ago when we were there.
we heard that it is going bye-bye.
This one topped the charts on our
Top in the charts at number 5.
best of 2021.
It's a blend of 2 Indiana rye whiskeys and a Kentucky bourbon. Then they finish it for 3 weeks with various oak staves. Then they reblend it with some 17-year-old Tennessee whiskey in there. And then you have this, which is a 109 proof banger.
And because of those oak staves, it ends up with this like really rich, luscious, toasty,
I had no idea there was Tennessee in
delicious.
here. But holding the spot for the GOAT, the greatest of all time from Bardstown Bourbon Company, is the Chateau de la Baude. It is just...
It deserves the hype.
It does. We have to thank Clark and Betsy for gifting this Bad Mamma Jamma
We've
to us.
obviously been putting it to good use.
Oh my gosh.
This one was released back in 2020, so it is a bit older. So this is 12-year Indiana bourbon finished in the Chateau de la Baude Armagnac.
And finished for 18 months.
18 months.
Yeah, they've got another one in the works.
It just has a crazy mouthfeel. Like
Crazy.
I'm about to enjoy it right now.
Yeah. The hug on it, the mouthfeel, the flavors that it's imparting.
Yeah. And it's got that bourbon base that I love. It's got that like honey
With an accent.
syrup and a slight pepperiness, which I would think that maybe I wouldn't like it, but it's got a balance of like a sweet and savory that's really nice. And I would drink this after dinner. Like
Yeah.
that in between, you know, dinner and dessert type of
Would
a
you like to
thing.
retire to the parlor for cigars and Chateau de la Baude?
Yeah, seriously.
Bardstown Bourbon Company. It's got this apricot and a little bit of honey in there and this cracked black pepper going on. It's just stupid good.
As we talk to them and we visit, they always tell us what's in the works. So there will obviously be the Fusion 8, the Discovery 8, but then more collabs in the future.
Yes.
And if you want to know about those, you can go to their website, you can sign up for their emails, and they'll tell you about them there, or go follow them on Instagram at Bardstown Bourbon Company.
And also follow Danny Bardstown.
Yes, make
for the
sure you
scoop.
do that.
Yeah. The last thing to mention, which isn't the last thing at all, is the kitchen at Bardstown Bourbon Company, which is a reason to go there by itself.
I love our restaurant. Executive Chef Stu Plush has done incredible things. A modern take on classic Kentucky dishes. Above all else, just like we source local grains, we source our meat and cheese from local farmers, right? And the menu is really a celebration of the Bardstown community, just as much as anything else.
We've had some amazing meals there, lunch and dinner. We've had some amazing
Great cocktails.
pours from their vintage library. So if you're coming to Kentucky, yes, book your tour, but also think about booking an experience, whether it's a cocktail class, whether it's just having a meal there, doing fill your own bottle from the barrel there, their blending classes, or anything. Just make sure to do it in advance. Call them, website.
Check the hours, make your reservations in advance, because it is a popular spot. I
Yeah.
have to say, Chad, I get questions and emails, maybe on a weekly basis, of people saying if they're coming to Kentucky and they want to go to Bardstown, what should they do and see? And visiting Bardstown Bourbon Company is always on my list for them, because I've never had a bad experience there. We hype it so much because we love it so much.
Right.
We feel kind of a special connection with them.
We'll also say that all these bottles behind here, we paid for ourselves.
paid for
okay? Every bottle in our collection, we paid for ourselves. So they're not giving us free bottles. There's no exchange of funds here. This is all legitimately from just our love of this distillery.
That's true. And we want
Yeah.
to share it with you. And we
Yeah.
want to help you guys get to know them if you're unfamiliar. So that was this episode.
That was this episode. There we go. So, hey, if you haven't joined us already, we'd love to have you. You can do so by clicking right up here. There's suggestions of other videos down here. Hope to see you over there in one of those. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Chad.
Okay, until next time, drink more bourbon.